famous warrior, welcome back to our channel, our space to get charged up, encouraged, and challenged as we face life. Today, I am really excited about the guest that I have on. I don't think I can even qualify to say that I'm this person's friend because I've just always looked up to him. I met this person first when I was a youth. Maybe I'm still a youth, I don't know. In this country, I'm still a youth. But when I was a teenager, he was my youth leader, and he just always was just this cool guy that was like, you know, out there doing stuff, doing amazing big things. He used to rap. He was just cool. I still think that he's just this cool guy that I look up to. And today I have the pleasure of asking him some questions that I hope will not just benefit you guys, but will also get you thinking in a different way. So without further ado, let me introduce Mr. Alinani Mugala. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for making yourself available to the Famous Warrior family. I hope that you'll find this conversation as exciting as I'm finding it right now.
Wow. I think first of all, yes, you are a friend.
Yay!
You qualify. You qualify, and I think I've said this to you and to Caesar before. I don't know if I have, but I think I have. Or at least I've implied.
Yeah.
Like you and Caesar are quite special to me. I think, like you said, I've seen you grow.
Yes.
I'm kidding, but true.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember. Like, I don't know if I should go there, but I remember like one of my favorite moments in life, even like up to now, is when I get to talk to people. I mean, people get to share their hearts, and we get to pray about something, right? And I remember one moment. I'm not going to get into the details, but I remember one moment. You were serving a children's church, and you needed to pray about something, about school and stuff. Like I vividly remember that moment. Even when we were praying, like I just felt like, oh God, please, you know what I mean? And I mean, like your heart for kids, and like I could tell then, like you really had a heart for kids. And then for Caesar, I don't know if he knows this, but I've actually texted him before. There was a time, if I'm not mistaken, it was like 2015 getting into 2016. I was like at my lowest, and he was preaching in church.
Oh yeah.
And I remember like I still have those sermon notes.
Wow.
I don't remember exactly what he was talking about, but I have those sermon notes.
Yeah.
And I think I remember one time I took a photo of those sermon notes, and then I sent to him. But like it just meant so much to him, to me rather. There was like a series of preachers that time. Our pastor was not around, so there was like Caesar that preached. I think Benjamin preached as well, and then there was Pastor Dejuan from Nigeria that preached as well. So like everything was just like falling into place, you know. And Caesar was a fan of my rap career.
Yes, we both have been super fans of your rap career. When is it coming back?
Well, about that. Well, I'm a local rap artist. I only do that at church once in a while. Yeah. When the Lord says so. I know it sounds cliche, but like so like I'm not so much into it. I mean, like I do support a number of up and coming Christian rappers. I'm so passionate about hip hop. So but like doing it for the whole world, nah, I don't see that happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about yourself in 5 sentences, just to get us started, kind of put our toes in the water of this conversation, to get people to have a feel of who you are. Tell us something interesting about yourself in 5 sentences.
Well, I think I've just said.
No.
Everything I've said is like everything I've said.
Okay, but you haven't mentioned your wife. You haven't mentioned. There's some things that are important that you haven't mentioned.
I love hip hop, like I said.
Yes.
I'm married, newly married.
Yes.
To a beautiful woman. Her name is Wendo. I'm into business. I love God above all. I love God and I love people.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that sums up my life.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so God, my wife, people, business, hip hop and basketball.
Yes. Okay. Seeing that entrepreneurship is a big part of your life, a big part of who you are, what you do. What would you say entrepreneurship means to you?
Okay, what entrepreneurship means to me. So for me, it's not just entrepreneurship. It's just life,
Yeah.
right? I live by an ethos that says I'm a steward and not an owner. You know. So there was a time when the pastor said that I think statement in church actually. I don't remember what the whole sermon was about, but I do remember him saying something like, "We are stewards and not owners."
Yeah.
Right? And I remember writing that down. And in my mind, I was just like, yes, that's what I've been looking for. Like, that's the best way to describe me, and that's the best way I would love to describe me and to live by.
Right.
You know, so even entrepreneurship, I remember actually, again, I'll be making reference to church
Yeah.
so many times.
That's what you asked.
I remember that was like I was in my first year in uni when I was a youth leader. The church had this business conference, and there was a guest speaker, and by then, like, I was really trying to figure out myself, right? And there was this guy that came. His name was Dan Sosa, and I remember he came from the States, and he just shared his story and why he decided to like get into business, you know. And for me, his reason was to serve people,
Right.
you know. And for me, that resonated with me so much, you know. Yes, I did have a passion for business, and I was trying to get into business, and I didn't know what business I was going to get into. And after listening to Dan, I was like, yes, I think that's the reason why I want to get into business. So ever since then, and then that whole I think ethos of me being a steward and being not an owner, that describes what entrepreneurship is to me, right? So I just believe that I've been entrusted with ideas,
Right.
you know, I've been entrusted with clients, you know, and I'm just a caretaker, right? So, and I know, like what Jesus said, you know, like you for someone to trust you with more, you need to show faithfulness in little, you know. So every time I'm doing business, every time I'm servicing a client, at the back of my mind, I know like, oh, I need to impress my boss, who is God, right? So I need to be faithful with the little so that he can trust me with more.
Awesome.
So for me, that's what business is about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
From the time you got into business, when you finally made the decision to say, okay, I'm getting into this, what did you start with? What did you try your hand in? What didn't work in the beginning? What's working now? Yeah.
So my first business, or the first time I did something for a pay, actually, was when I was in secondary school.
Okay.
You know, I'm ashamed to say. No, I'm not. But anyway, so I think what happened was I was like a Blonga boys then. We always used to have this shortage of stools in our classroom, right? So like if you come late, you're probably going to stand for like the first period until like you've got some time, then you can go into another classroom and get a desk, a stool, and then come and sit on it. Okay. So what I used to do to this friend of mine, who up to this day is still a friend, his name, okay, no, I'm not going to mention his name. He's a big boy now. So I knew that he would always come late. So, and I'd always be early for class. So I think what I used to do was I would hide 2 stools.
Oh my word.
Right? So that when he comes, I'll be like, okay, you know what? I can give you my stool. And then you sit on it and then you pay me. So like that always used to happen. And every time that you would come, like I'll give him my stool and then you give me money and then I'll go for the stool which I hid. That's how I made my first back. And then after that, in high school, my late mom bought me a disposable camera for my birthday. Now, I can't remember what I turned, maybe 16, I think. Yeah, she got me this blue disposable camera, you know, and she was like, nah, like if you use the film that's there, then it's done, then you can throw it away.
Oh, okay.
So I took a few photos with it, and then I realized, like, you know what, before this film runs out, you know, I can actually just take a few photos of my friends around. I can become the school photographer or cameraman, and then make some money, you know. So I was like one of the 2 camera guys that were there.
Wow.
It was myself and another friend of mine, Isaiah, is now in Angola, who also was a thing photographer. So yeah, so like I became the school photographer, I actually still have some photos of some people that didn't pay for them. I still have them up to now. Wow, yeah. Okay. Mumba Mwelwa, I have your photo.
Pay the guy.
Pay me. Yeah. I was not a very good photographer, but I did make some money. So like when we would have like end of year parties at school, like I'll be that guy.
Okay.
And then after that, in my gap year, in my gap year is when like I was like getting a hang of business, and I was like, you know what, maybe I could do this, right? I remember a very good friend of mine, Trevor Noah. I was in the same class with him from grade 8, and we went to Think Campus together, and he's still a very good friend of mine now. He's now with Bongo Hive, actually teaching entrepreneurship and stuff. Yeah. So we talked with Peter. We were watching Ichram Makanyama on TV. He was on TV then talking about business. I remember Peter coming up with a business plan, and we wanted to start selling, I think, groundnuts, right? Like roasted nuts, and then just packaging them nicely. We did this proposal. I remember I'm the one that even took it to Chibambacha, to Chibamba Kanyama, to see his office. Like I was looking for like his input in it and all of that stuff. We started that business, although it didn't go, I think, very far. And then when I went to uni, I got into phones, right? I had this friend of mine, Mumba Mwelwa, the same guy that still owes me for the photo from grade 10 or 11. Yes. Mumba is actually like one of my, I've never said this before, but looking back, it's like one of those heroes that we had back then. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. Oh snap, I've already mentioned his name. But anyway, so Mumba, like straight, even when we were in high school, he would be dealing at Katondo Street, right? Like he'd be selling phones, and they were just like, Mumba and Katondo. So like when we go to uni, I was like, you know what? It looks like Mumba makes money on the Katondo Street, and like he would be selling phones. So I used to buy phones from him. Right, so like I would buy a phone. So I think how I started was I would trade in my phone for a better one, and then I would get another phone and then go and sell on campus. So like I did phones at Unza, and then I got into computers. The second hand computers, like desktops, like those Pentium 3s. Wow. Yeah, I sold phones. And then after that, I got into, so now all along I was trying to figure out where is it that I fit in, right? Like what type of business am I going to do? Then I realized that I was a creative person, right? Like I'm a creative person, right? So I hooked up with a friend of mine, Ronnie, a very good friend of mine. Up to now, like we're still friends, and we do work together as well. Ronnie was a graphic designer. I think what got us together first was hip hop, right? Like Christian hip hop. So we're like inseparable. And he was a graphics designer. So he would design stuff, and I'm like, you know what? Can you do this design for me? Like I would like to put it on a t-shirt. You know, and then he would do that, and then I'll go have a t-shirt printed with something cool written on it, like some scripture or something, or like some cool hip hop stuff on it, you know. And then Ronnie used to do that for me, and then I'll go print, and then people were like, you know what, I like your t-shirt, you know. So like, oh, okay, cool, I can actually sell these t-shirts, you know. So then I started doing t-shirts, and then I did t-shirt printing as well for like just campus student associations and think campus fellowships, and I did that for like much of my stay on Think Campus. And I did t-shirts as well for our youth group at church, you know. I was like, you know what, this thing is actually taking off, you know. So maybe I should get into t-shirt printing and all of this stuff. But I was leaning towards advertising and think marketing. So like I was just still trying to figure out where I was going to like fit in. And then in my final year at school, so now like in all of those years, like I got to know people, like I got to read more about entrepreneurship. I got close to Chibamba Kanyama, and just a whole lot of other people, right? Like I kind of like built my network. Okay. And in my final year of uni, I was thinking to myself like, okay, should I dump all of this stuff I've been doing, you know, and go get a job after this? I remember having conversations with Mr. Jerry Thomas, who comes to think our church, and I was quite close to him and his wife, and I was asking him, I was like, look, I'm about to finish school and I don't know what to do.
And what did you study at school?
I studied agriculture.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I was telling Jerry, and one thing I like about him, and like this is how I do it as well. Like when someone comes to ask for advice, right? You just give them the facts, right? You don't choose for them.
Right.
So he gave me facts, and I went back and thought about it. I was like, you know what? From what I've read, what I've seen, a lot of entrepreneurs like start off well, and then some point have like a downturn.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how, but somehow things just go wild. And I was telling myself, I was like, should this happen? I'd rather it happens to me when I don't have much to lose. So let me get into business while I'm still young. I'll learn the ropes, and then if I face hard times, it won't impact so many people.
Yeah,
right? Like I'm still
alone,
young, I'm not married, I don't have kids, so then I'm just going to suck it up. And that's actually what informed my decision to like, you know what, I'm going to leave uni, I'm just going to go straight into the grind.
Wow.
Because I was thinking again, I was like, you know what, I get a job, I build stuff, I get married, I have kids, and then I decide to leave, and then I go start business, and then if something happens, the price might just be too huge to pay. Not to say that you get into business when you don't have much to lose. I mean, like there's no guarantee that things won't go south.
Yeah.
Right? Like at whatever point,
Yeah.
But like that was my thinking then, and like that's what informed my decision. And by then, I had decided that I wanted to get into advertising space, into marketing, and I registered a company with a friend of mine, Chilu, and we called it the Straight Up Company, and it's been running since May 31st, 2010.
Wow.
That's when we registered it.
Okay.
And I mean, like it's had its share moments of ups and downs, but it's still going up to now.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my story. And then, like I said earlier on, like I did build quite a huge network of people. So like I knew people from different spaces, different sectors. So I do Straight Up Company in marketing and advertising as my main business, but I do consult as well, like in other fields and other spaces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So since the Straight Up Company was registered, what is your fondest story? It can be a funny story, it can be a tragic story, it can be a story where like you messed up something for a client, but like something that till today still gives you these fond memories of something that happened with regards to your business.
So like I've got a lot of stories.
Yeah.
I'm like I've been in business for like 10 years plus, so meaning that I've got lots of stories. So I'm going to share a few. And this was this one was like I thought it was me then, right? I remember I got a contract, and I still have that contract, by the way. I got a contract. This was the first time that I was signing a contract actually for work, because like I was just used, like someone says, you know what, like I want this, and then you do it. I was doing t-shirts for our youth group, right? And the one who was overseeing that project was one of our pastors. Am I allowed to mention names?
No.
Okay, cool. No, it's a good story. It's a good story. Shout out Pastor Haley. Yeah. Yeah, and she gave me a contact. She's like, Alinani, I'd love for you to do t-shirts for us, and like these are the terms. You give us X number of t-shirts by this day. If you don't meet the deadline, we'll cut off X% of the payment. If your work is not as promised, we'll cut off X%. And I'm like, I've never failed any client, so like, you know what, whatever, I'm just going to sign it, right? Then it was time to deliver now. Like I brought t-shirts. Then we had to go through those t-shirts now to like make sure that they were as agreed on, quality delivered, right?
And how many were they? Do you remember?
I can't remember, but they're like over 100.
Okay.
Right. It was like a big order for me then. So then we started going through them. Then she was like, have you seen this t-shirt? It's got this extra ink here.
Yeah.
Reject. There were like a good number of t-shirts that were rejected. I was like, this lady. And she's my pastor, right? You know what I mean? She's my pastor, and she's the pastor's wife.
Where is the support?
I was like, bruh, can you show some grace? I was like, so like every t-shirt that's being rejected, I'm looking at it as a loss, right? Because like that's a cost. Like I need to go buy another t-shirt, I need to have it printed again. I remember even going to the printer, and the printer was like, no, but this t-shirt is okay. I was like, you know what? They think customer is always right, you know. Until eventually we managed to satisfy the thing order. I was paid the full amount, but I got a good lecture after that, you know, from Pastor Haley.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, like I got a good lecture after that, and she was just like, you know what? If you promise a client something, make sure that you deliver to the standard that I think client wants, you know, and that has stuck with me up to date, you know, and not to say like I've never delivered something and then client rejected, but like I always feel bad when I think deliver work and then the client is not happy, you know. So now every time that a client gives us feedback and they're happy with our work, I always remember to think that instant that I had with Pastor Haley, and I love her to bits, you know. So, but I'm just like, come on, like this is church, you're a pastor's wife. But again, like that goes to the same mentality where like, you know what, since it's church stuff or it's Christian stuff, it's okay, anything can go. You know what I mean, right? Yeah. So that was my experience with the church. Luckily, it's not a story of church hurt. But anyway, yeah. So I learned that, and up to now, like that's a lesson which I've carried up to this day. And then the other moment was like an exciting moment. I remember it was like 2012. We were just fresh as a company, you know, and still trying to find our way, you know, through our work. I remember this day, and you know, it's so funny. So like, I love comedy, like stand-up comedy, right? And then I remember there was a time I was just like, you know what, I'm done with stand-up comedy because it's too vulgar. You know, like I need to stop like watching stand-up comedy because it's too vulgar. And then I came across Trevor Noah. There was this video that was making rounds, you know. I was like, this guy is really cool, you know. And I think that time we had also started doing stand-up comedy shows here, right? And
the ones that were at the cinema.
At the cinema, yes. So like, and it was just a collection of friends, right? Because you know, like I've got some really funny friends, or at least I'd like to believe. I got funny friends, and I remember myself and my partner then Chilu were like, you know what? I think these guys could actually do pretty well if we put up like a stand-up, I think, show for them. And we had like really good guys, fresh, like they had never done stand-up before, and we put up shows for them. And then I stumbled upon Trevor Noah's content. I was like, you know what, it might be good to bring this guy over. You know, like he was just starting out and he was like blowing up. I remember he made his first visit to the States. He featured on the David Letterman show, on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and it was just like making waves. And then I came across an article saying that he was actually planning a tour back in SA, and I called numbers that I could find. I came across a number, called someone who gave me a contact to think his manager, Ryan, and then I called him. I was like, would you like to come for a show in Zambia? He was like, yeah, cool, put it up, let's see what we can do. I was like, for real? Like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. I was like, wow, that was easy. You know, I was like, that was easy. And I knew that us putting up that show was going to be a big deal, you know. And I remember telling my friend then, I was like, you know what, we shouldn't get carried away with this, right? We are still small in the business, although people are going to think that we are big. You know, so like I was just like, God, please help me be humble. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be big-headed. I know a lot of people are going to be talking about this, but I think just help us keep our feet on the ground. You know, we had Trevor Noah, we sold out gigs in like few hours, 2 shows in few hours. It was massive. That was the first time he came, you know, and everybody was talking about it, even like after that. Then the following year again, he wanted to come back for a show. I was like,
so he initiated the second show.
Yes. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's do it. After the last time, we did make some good money. You know, I was like, let's do it. Obviously, this time around, he was much more expensive to host. I was like, okay, let's get a bigger venue. We moved from Government Complex. Actually, you guys came to serve at the Government Complex, right? Yeah, I remember. Wow, you see? Yeah, so we had a second gig at Mulungushi. And that was like, it was a bittersweet moment, right? Sweet in that, come on, like it was Trevor Noah. Obviously, it was going to sell out. It was a good show. And it was good for our business as well,
exposure
and all of that stuff, right? And then bitter in that we made losses, right? Like that was like a very defining moment. We lost a lot of money. We had borrowed money to host that show. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, like, that was a trying time for me as a business person. I mean, like, that ordeal lasted like years, and it had its own repercussions.
Wow.
You know, yeah, it was like a very, very painful moment. I think, like I said earlier on, like one of the times when Caesar was preaching in church, like that was during that time, right? Like that was during that moment when I was dealing with the consequences of that. Yeah, but it taught me a lot about myself.
Yeah.
You know, I had to do my own character check. You know, I had to learn to trust God more. You know, I also had to learn that you have to pay the price for the choices you make.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how painful, or rather, as painful as some prices or price might be,
Yeah.
you just have to pay it.
Yeah.
Right? You need to go through certain things. Yeah. So those are some of the experiences. I mean, like, there's like a whole lot of other experiences that we've gone through and I've gone through personally up to date. But yeah, these are the two stories I can share.
Okay.
For now.
Okay.
Yeah. Then the other stories, you buy my book.
Yes.
I'm joking.
Yes, coming soon.
Not
No,
yet
but
though.
seriously, I think it would be good for us to explore that avenue.
Yeah.
But before we unpack a bit of that rock bottom that you're alluding to, do you think that things like depression, anxiety, feelings of inadequacy, isolation are just a normal thing that comes with the territory of entrepreneurship, kind of like an occupational hazard? Like, if you get into this business, expect
Be ready to
these
deal
things.
with this.
Yes. Do you think that that's the case, or do you think it just depends on the person?
So you see, I would say that's the case, because I'm going to tell you why. Because the thing is, in most cases, like when people get into business, right, no one tells them about what to expect, right?
No.
But I'll tell you something. So I remember this back in uni, right? Like when I was going through that period trying to figure out, like, should I go get a job or should I start my own business? And trying to figure myself out. I read quite a number of books, right? And one guy that I read on, I remember, was Donald Trump. You know, and like I read on how he like went bankrupt, whatever, and all of that stuff, and like a whole lot of other entrepreneurs, right? But if you're not in it yet, like, you can see it from outside and be like, oh yeah, you go through this, right? But until you experience it, it does hit different. And I remember that was one of my biggest fears, actually. Like my biggest fear, even as I got into business, was going bankrupt, right? And just going down. So like I did have that fear, but again, the thing is that you don't know how it's going to hit you, right? You might be certain that something is going to work out, and it might be something that you've done a million times, right?
Yeah.
But the environment always changes, things always change. There are a lot of variables at play, right? So things can go things south anyway, right? So I would say almost, I mean, like, if you're an entrepreneur with your salt, you've gone through trying moments, right? And things to do with, and then because there are few people who tell their stories, people are not prepared on how to respond to such things. You know, I'm going to tell you. So like in my low moments, right, when I actually had a mindset change, was when somebody told me their story.
Right.
I'm not going to mention his name, but it's like it's like a big shot guy, you know, like he's the CEO of one of the biggest one of the big companies around, and one of the biggest in his field. You know, like I went to him, and he told me straight up, you know, like, well, you think you've got issues. Well, like, not in a way to like kind of like belittle what I was going through, right? But like he was just saying, like, look, these are normal experiences, but there's a certain way that you need to respond to them. And then I was like, oh, real? Okay, cool. So because initially you think you are the only one going through it. And when you start thinking you are the only one going through it, then isolation kicks in, right? Because you then feel inadequate, right? Like just exactly how you put it, right? So you then isolate yourself, feel inadequate, and feel like you don't deserve to be out there. You don't qualify to be out there with the rest of the cool kids. You know what I mean? Right? The ones that are making it or seem to be seems like they're making it. You know, so then you just start asking yourself those questions, and that's like one of the most horrible places to be at, because now it's just you and your thoughts, right? And your thoughts can take you anywhere.
Exactly, and then the devil uses that as well.
Exactly, and then for some people it goes very far. You know, others manage to like come out of it. Again, depending on what you know about how to deal with such situations, and then also who is around you, right? And are they able to give you the proper advice that you need? So I mean, like if you're getting into business, like be ready for such moments. They 11 out of 10 times they do happen. Because you are not guaranteed of the outcome that you want. You know, so things do flip. 11 out of 10 times things do flip.
So back to your story of, you know, getting into this low point that lasted a span of some years. What was the lowest moment during that period? You don't have to go into detail, whatever you're comfortable sharing. But what was like your low, where you realize like, okay, if I don't deal with this, if I don't get the mind shift that you talked about, if I don't reach out to somebody, go and talk to somebody, this is not going to end well. That moment. And then how did you get there?
Let me see. My lowest moment, so how can I put it? Like I lost friends, right? Like friends who are dear to me, right? And I lost like a number of people's trusts, and then one thing is that you see, earlier on I did say that I love people, right? I love people and I like serving people, right? So if people can trust you, and for me it was more than business, right? Because I know that even if I'm dealing with you and for business, for me as a Christian and what I believe God has called me to do, for me it's more than business, right? I do treasure service. I do treasure that relationship, right? I'm much more interested in your work with God than I am interested in the money that you're going to give me, right? So if that relationship is broken, for me I'm looking at it as, oh snap, I've let God down, right? Because I've got a broken relationship now. Like I can't even come to you and talk to you about God, right?
Especially if that person isn't a believer.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and then just even if the believer as well, ultimately for me, I just feel like I've misrepresented God. You know, so, and it's not even really that I want people to like me, and it's not even about like I want people's validation or anything. For me, it's just having that relationship where I can get to represent God. And remember, I did say that for me, my life principle or mission is that of being a good steward, right? So in the grand scheme of things, I feel like I've let God down. And that's something that used to eat me up too much, because I'm just like, oh God, I've misrepresented you. I've misrepresented you. And then I'll get messages from people, like, you know what I mean? Like people will be mad, like legit mad, you know? And I remember every morning when I wake up, I'll just tell God, I was like, I know I'm a mess right now, but I just hope, I don't know how you're going to do it, but if I go out and when people see me, I hope they're not seeing the mess that I am, but I just hope that they can see you somehow. I don't know how you're going to pull it off, but so like that really hit me, like just losing friendships and relationships. I was just like, oh snap, this is like, I'm done, you know? And then I started beating myself now, like, why did I even get into this? You know, and then like I think like you said, like the devil then comes in now, like so you thought you had it together, right? And you thought you could take risks, and you thought, oh okay, so now look at you now. You are not as honest as you would like people to believe you are. You are not as straight, you know. And our company name is Straight Up, right? Exactly. I'm like, you're not as straight as you would want people to believe in. And you thought you were smart enough to get into this. Look at you now. You're a mess, right? And when I now had like a mind shift. Other than that encounter I had with the man I just made reference to, I remember, so like someone had actually complained, and this complaint had like gotten to our pastors. And I remember my pastor, Pastor Walker, I think called me to his office, and I'm there thinking like, oh snap, and like Pastor Walker has been like a very good friend.
Yeah.
Like he's been a very good friend. And I went to his office, and we were talking, and what I was thinking again was like, like he's going to feel sorry for me. After all, he's my pastor.
That's not at all what you got, right?
I was wrong. And then I'm there, and he brought it back to me, right? He was like, look, in all of these issues that you're having around, there's one common denominator, and the common denominator is you. So you are the one with the problem. I'm like, dude, how do you mean I've got a problem? It's like you are the one who is in all of this situation. So it can only mean that the problem is with you. It was a hard pill to swallow, Then we started talking. Then he made me realize that I did actually have a character flaw, right? Or flaws, And I realized like, okay, I need to start working through. So it's not really about business practices and stuff. It's more about my character, right? It's more about how honest and truthful am I, right? I'm owing people money, meaning, do I tell these people the truth? Am I being honest in my dealings? Is there some stuff I'm trying to cover up?
Yeah.
So I had to have a character check. And when I started dealing with the character issues, then I could actually see myself slowly coming out of that space. Though I must confess that till today, right, I do suffer a degree of PTSD.
Yes, post-traumatic stress
disorder. Yeah, like there are some things that happen, and they low-key trigger some feelings.
Yeah.
Like I'll give you an example. So, and during that moment, I remember then I had a BlackBerry Curve phone. So
the BBM days.
Yeah, the good old days. So like I remember that period, my phone was always on silent. Yeah, always on silent, because like I would get calls like crazy, and that would just throw me off, right? So like it was always on silent, and I could tell if a call was coming in, because there was a light that used to flicker, right? And even past that period, like I'm always having my phone on silent, and now like it's become a normal thing, right? But like it's become a normal thing now to always have my phone on silent, but it actually stems from that period.
Wow.
And funny enough though, like I rarely miss important calls. I mean, like I'll find a missed call and then I'll call back.
Yeah.
But like my phone is usually on silent, even up to this day.
Wow.
And then sometimes like I'll get a strange number, and then like that would trigger.
Yes. So
you know what I mean? I just like no, I do pick up. I do pick up. But like still like my heart will like low-key skip. You know what I mean? I just like,
who is this?
Exactly, because like I still live with the effects of that traumatic experience, right? Because like most of the times, like I'll pick up, back then it's like someone blasting, and then like I'll just feel bad, like I'm this bad person and all of that stuff. Yeah, so like I do have some low-key triggering moments, even in situations that I would say are not that hectic, like my mind will just race to that place, and have like the worst expectation ever, because I've been to such a dark place before, But yeah, and sometimes like I just have to like control it. I'm like, okay, look, relax, dude. Like it's not that, you know what I mean, right? But like, it's all in the mind, and the post-traumatic stress disorder or effects are real up to this day, actually. So, yeah.
Okay.